In this lesson, instead of drawing each frame, we will be doing the key positions and auto-generate the in-between frames. In Adobe Animate, tween is short for in-between. Take the circle animation for instance. In traditional animation, the animator draws a starting position and an ending position a few frames later. An in-between artist will then come in and draw all the frames between the two key positions. In this case, everything between frame 1 and 24. If we animate on 5 frames per second, we can see that less frames in the same motion makes for a choppier animation. The timing of both animations is set to 1 second, but the result is much different. For our purposes, we will keep the animation speed at 24 frames per second. To create a tween, we need a symbol instance on its own layer. The mountain and the clouds have already been set up in this way. Let's move the mountains to a starting position all the way to the right. Next, we click on frame 16 on the mountain layer and insert a keyframe. As you know, this makes a copy of the previous keyframe. Making sure that you stay on frame 16, drag the mountain all the way to the left. At this point, all the frames in between is just repeating frame 1, as it should. Let's convert them to do more. Right-click on any normal frame in between your two keyframes and choose Create Classic Tween. Do not select Motion Tween for this class. To see the tween animation, scrub the timeline. The frames in between the two keyframes have been auto-generated. If you need to adjust the mountain's position, move the scrubber back to one of the keyframes and move the mountain. I have just shown you how to move mountains. Let's do the same thing with the clouds. Insert a keyframe on frame 16 and move the clouds a little to the left and create the classic tween like before. Since the clouds don't cover the same distance, they will appear to move a bit slower. Let's also make the clouds fade out a bit. We go back to frame 16 and select the clouds on the stage. From the Properties panel, set the color effect. We'll choose Alpha at 40%. We do not get the Alpha option with regular shapes or drawing objects. Test the movie to see the animation in action. The movie is incredibly fast. Let's add some more frames. Highlight all the layers on frame 120 and choose Insert Frame. This is exactly 5 seconds in total. Now we will extend the timing of the clouds and the mountain to make them move a bit slower. Select the keyframes on frame 16 and then drag them over to 120. Angelo oddly stops on frame 16 while the terrain continues to move. He was a small looping animation before, but now it takes too long to loop back because of all the extra frames that's been inserted. Looping animations like Angelo are best kept in their own timelines. To copy Angelo, select all 4 of his layers from frame 1 to frame 16, then right-click and choose Copy Frames. Next, we'll create a symbol for him. Instead of converting a drawing object on the stage, we will make a fresh new symbol from the library. Name the symbol Angelo Walk, and this time set the type to movie clip. A movie clip is like a graphic symbol, but is specifically for looping animations. It also has its own layers and timeline. On the fresh new timeline, right-click on frame 1, layer 1, and choose Paste Frames. The layers and all the layer names have been completely transferred. Click back to exit isolation mode. Angelo is now in the library. Click on the small play button in the symbol preview to see him walk. Now it's safe to get rid of all the original Angelo layers. Select them and click on the trash can. Let's replace them with a new layer called Angelo. And on the new blank keyframe, we'll drag out an instance of the movie clip. It looks like a still drawing, but it will play on a loop when we test it. Angelo keeps looping on the regular frames following the keyframe, while animation on the main timeline plays independently. This is known as nesting animations. Lastly, let's animate the background to fade the sky into nighttime. Select the blue rectangle in the sky layer, and on frame 1, we can convert it to a graphic symbol called sky. Now that the sky is a graphic instance, like before, we set a second keyframe. We want the fade to go on for a whole 5 seconds, so insert a keyframe on frame 120. We click the sky instance on the stage, and in the Properties panel, this time we'll choose Tint, and set the color to dark blue at 70%. Create the classic tween and test the animation.